Hi, I'm Dr. Mike, and this is NFGeeks. Well, this is an Ask Dr. Mike video. Every Sunday on the NFGeeks Facebook forum, people post questions for me to answer in a video, and whatever question gets the most likes, wins, and I answer it with a video, and that's what this is. And this week's winner was Jenny Kalela, and she asked a very interesting question, and I kind of like where this question is going, and hopefully there'll be more like this, and so I'll read it, and then I'll explain why. So the question she asks is, what new things have you learned about the different types and temperaments, specifically since starting the NFGeeks Facebook group, both through your interactions and with your observations of the members? Well, what I like about that question is that it's not a strictly theoretical question. Okay, if you look at all the videos that I've made for Ask Dr. Mike, they're all very, very theoretical about how functions work and what happens when this type does this and that. And I love those questions. I'll always answer them. It's important. But this is a question that's more about my experience and about what goes on at NFGeeks, and just something outside of theory. And I like that. I would like to encourage people to ask more questions like that. And then sort of something comes out of that indirectly out of me, so keep going those questions, as well. But also the theoretical questions are fine. But I'm glad to it's sort of refreshing to ask a question that's not specifically nuanced in theoretical things like how do the cognitive functions fit in with each other or something. So it's a breath of fresh air, and I like that. Okay, so let's get to it. Now, one of the things I was thinking about when I was sort of pondering this question is that a lot of my observations come from negative things, like incidences and drama and awful things that happen, and it kind of makes this seem more negative than I mean it to be. But what I want to sort of frame this with is that you really see differences or see type in action when something bad happens, because then it's in your face and you have to deal with it directly. So things that I've experienced about type, a lot of things are like, wow, look how the types do this and do that, but it's always surrounding some sort of negative event, you know what I mean, where I have to sort of directly deal with that event or interact with that event, and I have to deal with people's issues and type and all that. So that's when it really kind of hits me, what's going on with type, when I have no choice but to directly deal with it because of some kind of crisis. So some of my observations kind of come out of that, and really it's because of that it's going to sound negative, not because of any sort of negative feeling about any particular type or temperament or any specific people for that matter. When drama comes up, we all get sucked into it. I get sucked into it, so this, that's normal, to sort of be in the whirlpool of negativity and drama and pain and suffering when these things erupt, so that's not anyone's fault or any temperament's failure, so keep that in mind when I talk about these things. All right, so first, because that's going to be a common theme too throughout all of this. So first, let's talk about SPs. So the first thing I notice about SPs, and this is a good thing because it breaks the stereotype, is that SPs can be very well versed in typology. Okay, they can easily have a conversation about typology. They can, share ideas about typology. They can answer questions about typology. They can be in there, in that dialogue, and there be no major problems being in that dialogue, for them. And that's important because, it kind of thwarts the general criticism of any censor that they're stupid, or that somehow they don't belong in this conversation, or that all the intuitives are somehow better than them, in terms of this conversation, NTs in particular, because that criticism seems to come from NTs more than any other. Any other. It comes from NTs more than NFs, I think. But NFs too. NFs say this, and observing that over and over and over again allows me to, really break through that stereotype that censors and SPs in particular can easily transcend that. And it's now granted, I know this anyway because of censors, because my Noah, my son, is in ISTJ, and we talk about this stuff all the time, constantly having a dialogue about Myers-Briggs. So I know it just from being with him. But I think SPs get worse criticism in terms of the stereotype, because there's sort of this assumption that they're stupid in the way that they are with people, and that's just it's obviously not true, and it's definitely not true in terms of their contributions to NFGeeks and being involved in discussion. They don't come off as stupid at all, and they come across as very knowledgeable. That's been shown time and again at NFGeeks. The second thing I've noticed about SPs, and this is what I mean by crisis, is that SPs handle and recover from crisis and drama better than any of the other temperaments and any other type in any temperament. Okay, that has been shown again and again. And I'm going to start with a metaphor, then I'll start with my explanation of it. The metaphor I see is they're sort of like a piece of wood on the ocean, and even if there's storm and waves and all this kind of things going on, they're still floating. They're not bad. They're not underneath. And then when the waves calm down and the storm goes away, they're still there, floating. And nothing's changed. They're fine. They can go with the flow of the fight and the going back and forth and up and down. And then when it stops, nothing's changed. They haven't been hurt. They haven't been damaged. They're right there. That's sort of my metaphorical experience of it. But my explanation of it is that they're being centered in the now, okay? And SPs get criticized for that a lot, that because they're centered in the now, they don't really see the impact, what they do on others, their consequences, that occur in the future, because they're all focused on what's happening in the present. Now, that's true. Okay, that does happen. But the really positive side about it is that's also true regarding the past, and even though they may have some negative opinions about the past or whatever, they're also great at the past is the past. It happened, it's done, whatever. I'm not in that moment in the past, I'm in that moment now. That's now, and whatever happened, and let's just deal with the now, and the now is fine. So, they're okay with it. They never ever complain about the past. They never hold on to the past. They're aware of the past, but there's never this kind of wound that they're carrying around or whatever. That is not true of the NTs and the NFs. Okay, the NTs, if the NTs experience something as irrational, then they sort of declare it irrational, and they don't want to deal with it or the form or whatever. They put themselves outside of it, whatever. And NFs, they hold on to wounds. Please, we hold on to wounds that are decades old. So certainly we're going to hold on to wounds that are weeks and months old. So SPs definitely got everybody beat on that. They're totally in the present, and that allows them to sort of let go. They let go, much better than any of the other temperaments and types. So can't take that away from them. All right, so that's the SPs. So next is the SJs, and there's two things about the SJs that are interesting to me, and the one thing is their absence on the forum. Very, very few SJs. I don't know if there's any SJs at the moment, to be honest, as I'm recording this, but they're very absent, and I don't take it as an insult. I don't think it's personally an insult or even a particular judgment about NFGeeks. I think SJs want things to be the way they want them, and they want to talk about the things they want to talk about the way they want to talk about it. SJs being SJs, and so they stay on the SJ forums. I see them. There seems to be plenty of SJs on the ESTJ forum and ISTJ, whatever. They're there and they're talking and they're doing their thing. I don't see any kind of absence of them on the internet regarding MBTI. NFGeeks is just not their bag. They want to, be talking about their stuff the way they want to. That's all. There's nothing wrong with that. I also would say that also the SP thing about intelligence in typology, that also can be seen. I knew that anyway too, because of Noah. Again, Noah and I talk all the time, and so these forums exist. They're talking about type, and they're getting through it. So their absence is one of the things that happens. I have different feelings about it, because on one level, NFGeeks is, the door is always open for everybody. Anybody can come to the buffet. I want everyone to be able to become. Granted, of course, it's NFGeeks. It's going to be from an NF point of view. That's one of the things people mistake about why it's called NFGeeks, I think. It's not NFGeeks because it's NF only. It's NFGeeks, and Dave and I saw it this way. It's NFGeeks because this is coming from an NF point of view. It's not going to, bullshit about objectivity and truth and all that. That's a that's horseshit. We decided we wanted to be honest about it, and I've kept that about NF Geeks, that this is an NF point of view of everything. But it's not NF only. It's not exclusive like that. It's just that the point of view is an NF point of view. So, I can see that, that they can have that point of view of themselves, regarding being SJs and doing all that. But I would like to have them more on the channel. It would be beneficial. They'd keep people in line. That's for sure. They'd be the police of NF Geeks. And as people know on the forum, I don't mind there being police and things being policed. So, they could be, they could be part of that. They're not, though. They want to do their own thing. That's fine. Now, that's not the weird thing. The weird thing I've seen, and this is very rare, it's only happened like a handful of times, okay? And it's almost like you have to catch it. It's that quick, you know what I mean? Then it's gone, and then, if you don't catch it, you won't see it, because SJs sometimes come in and out. But it seems that sometimes, not frequently, but it seems sometimes SJs think they're intuitives. Okay, I don't know how that happens or why, but that's come across every now and then. All right, and again, not frequently, but it's happened a few times, and it always makes me wonder why that is, because I don't know how you could mistake yourself as an intuitive when you're a sensor. Okay, that seems very odd to me. Most sensors I know don't. Most sensors I know, when they do the questions on the MBTI, like, would you rather have, theory or facts or things like that, it's very clear. Okay, Noah was very clear, when I gave him the MBTI just to kind of, do it. And, it was very clear. No, Dad, facts. What? There was almost a disdain of theory coming from him. So it makes it, now that's him, that's just his own thing. But it makes me curious about that, because I can see it running in some directions. I can see intuitives thinking they're sensors, for example. Like NTs, sort of mixing up the sensing and the tactile for empiricism that's used in science. Okay, so I can see an NT kind of not, like, thinking they're an S. I can see that happening. Going in that direction. I can see, and I've talked about this a bajillion times, INFJs thinking they're INTJs, because mistaking contemplation for rational thought. I can see perceivers thinking they're judgers. There's certain ways that it runs. I can see INFPs thinking they're INTPs, in the reverse, going back and forth. I can see all that. But it seems odd that sensors would think they're intuitives. Now, granted, you might be saying, well, maybe that's not what's going on, and you're just you're not reading them right as that they're not SJs, and I suppose that could be true. I guess. I mean, I don't know, but so far it doesn't seem that way. It does seem that there's every now and then an ISJ, some kind of SJ, thinks that they're an intuitive, and I don't know. And I don't see that with the SPs. This is why it's interesting. I mean, it could happen with the SPs. That hasn't crossed my path yet, as far as I can tell. But so it could be that sensors can mistake themselves as intuitives too. But it just seems strange, and it seems unlikely. And I don't. But it's happening, so I don't know why it's happening. I'll let you figure that out. Start the theorizing about why that is. I couldn't tell you. I'm sort of like throwing my hands up about it. I don't know. Why that is. So it hasn't happened enough for me to like come to any conclusion about it. That's why. Basically I just have the NFP novel response, like, wow, look at this. That's it. I don't have anything beyond that. So, you can go figure it out. All right, now next. All right, so let's get to the NTs. Lots of interesting stuff here with the NTs. So NTs are of course much more present than the other temperaments other than NFs on NF Geeks, and have always made an impact. Okay, so NTs make an impact on NF Geeks all the time in various ways. Collectively as one temperament, all the individual types, separate types. So there's always something going on at NF Geeks with NTs. Either they have posts that are very, very interesting and everybody's jumping on them, or they are making comments on posts that are impacting the whole way that the thread is going. So they're very, very present on NF Geeks. Saying that, I don't find, because NTs are not a large population at all, I find the NT presence in terms of consciousness being strong, but not in terms of population. The NT population in NF Geeks isn't as big as people think it is. And this is interesting because the impact is huge, but that's coming from only a few people. Okay, a few, and there might few. It's not like 2 people, but I mean, the amount of impact that goes on and the amount of people that are involved in that are very different. Okay, so, and that always fascinates me, that only a handful of NTs can make so much of an impact on a bunch of threads and a bunch of posts, and and all of that. And granted, NFs like NTs, and like hearing from NTs are all sort of having our own fascination with NTs. So of course, that seems right that they would have that kind of impact on us. And on the forum, but it's funny, it's a small population compared to the impact that's going on. The impact is very big, huge sometimes, but it's always from a small group. It's never from a large group, because certainly NFs outnumber NTs, on the forum at any given day, but the NT impact is, it's big. Okay, so, saying that, that impact is not always positive. Okay, so I'm going to say some controversial things. Okay, we're going to start off with the most controversial thing. Just get it out of the, get it out in the open. And it's very controversial, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate mail for this. I know, now you're like, ooh, what is it? But I'm going to get hate mail. I'm going to get hate comments on the YouTube channel. I'll probably get hate on the forum even. All the hate in all directions, I'm sure, because I'm going to point out a gorilla in the room that I don't think anybody wants to say for whatever reason. I don't know, but but I can't believe I'm the only one who thinks this, but I'm so far going to be the only one who says it. Okay, I know everyone's like, what? All right, well, here it comes. ENFP, I like the build up. It's drama. I like to build up the drama. Okay, so I'm just going to say it out. But so my observation has been, INTPs overestimate their ability to type an individual correctly. Okay, I know. Boy, here it comes, right? But the question was, what has been my experience? What have I observed? This is what I've observed, and every time it happens, I think this thought. Okay, over and over and over again. So it's not so much that INTPs can't type a person correctly, but their ability to do it, and their actual ability to do it, and what they think their ability is very different, and I find they overestimate themselves a lot. Okay, they think they're better at this than they actually are. All right. Now, why is that? I think it has to do with, again, it just has to do with their functions are lined up. Their strengths being, introverted thinking versus extroverted intuition. So, they're very good at creating and pondering very complex structures for a personality type, and how the functions all work and all these different types of functions, and then questioning and correcting that system over and over and over again. That's why the complexity of it gets very, very large and very, very complex, because they're good at that. That's why the best, I've always said this, the best true philosophers are INTPs, because INTPs love to question and then rebuild and then question and then rebuild in their mind, and going on and on and on and on, and they're great at that. Okay, I think the problem is that their extroverted intuition is not that strong. I mean, it's strong, obviously, it's their auxiliary, but it's not strong enough to get this right. Okay, and I think that's because to really get this right, you have to sort of get inside the person. And INTPs, the way I've observed it, is that it's not that they truly get inside the person as much as it is they have created this very complex system, and so so it's what they think is actually going on inside a person regarding this complex paradigm they've constructed, and that's not exactly what's going on at all, because certainly there's a part of this that is totally sort of irrational, for starters. And I also find is that when they type and the type is off, the problem is the person, the problem is something else, and not not their own process and their own paradigm that they're working on. You know what I mean? It's always, something else other than maybe they don't know what they're talking about. Okay? And I think they're intimidating, not that they're trying to intimidate, I don't get the sense they're trying to intimidate, but they come across as intimidating because when they start talking about this process that they're using, it's very, very complex, and it's very, very rational, and it's even tough to follow to a certain degree, and so they sound like experts. Okay, and that everyone else thinks, well, I must be stupid because look at the way they're talking about this. But their application towards an individual seems off. I have seen INTPs mistype people the most on the forum. That's why I'm saying this, okay? Out of all the types that type, that talk about type, and somebody says, what type do you think I am? And then somebody talks about it. The INTP is the strongest in their rationalization, and it sounds very, very, very confident and clear, but they're the ones that miss the mark the most, okay? I've seen it many times. And what's interesting, why am I saying INTP is because I've seen it through the INTP using multiple or just different paradigms of personality type. I mean, the ones that are into MBTI miss the mark. The ones that are into socionics miss the mark. The ones that are into more nuanced types of theories and types of skill, they miss the mark. I mean, I've seen INTPs miss the mark no matter what theory they're using, no matter how complex they understand it. This is a constant, okay? And I want to point out that again, it's not that they're wrong in terms of their thinking. It's that they're wrong in terms of their application, because there's something about people they can't get, and so they're sort of taking things at face value, and so it makes sense to them because it fits in with their rational thought, and it's not necessarily correct, okay, in terms of that. And this doesn't mean they're not good at other things. I'm just speaking about typing individuals, that's it. But I find really maybe 50-50. That's how I see them, even though they act like it's 90, 90-10, maybe more. It isn't 90-10. Okay. I cannot possibly be the only person on the forum or the only person involved in typology who thinks this. I'm just the only one who's willing to say it. So, there. I said it. Let the hate mail commence. Okay. No, but I'll say something good. You know who is really good, and you would think they wouldn't be, is INTJs. I realize stereotypically we'd think they'd be totally antisocial, at the bottom in the basement of their castle, like Dr. Frankenstein working on some abomination, like that. But I find they are very good at it, and I think it's because they have a better, they can conceive a concept and a paradigm stronger, internally, and they can think it through better, okay? Also, INTJs are good at knowing their limitations. They never step over that line. They know that they're approaching it, and they'll go right to the edge of that line, but they know not to flip over, okay? They know when, okay, I'm at the extent of my knowledge. It's important because, it's limited, okay? INTJs aren't perfect at this, but they're really much better than we think they are, as my experience on the forum is, and they know when to stop and say, okay, I'm at the edge of my ability and knowledge, and I need to think about it again or go back to my intuitiveness or whatever, so they never make that mistake, the INTPs make. I've never seen an INTJ totally mistype, okay? They know when to say, I don't know, and I think that makes a difference, okay? Now, one question is the issue of sensitivity of NTs, and and this has been bantered around on NFGeeks, and I won't get into that. No, maybe I will. One of the great mistakes is the difference between empathy and sensitivity. I can't even tell you how many times this has come up. And that it's not exactly the same thing, as any NF will tell you. Okay, but we shouldn't mistake them as one as absence of the other or anything like that, because it's going to be comical and a little critical. But one thing about NTs are sensitive because they are touchy. Okay, I wouldn't say they don't get full-blown hurt, screaming nuttiness like the way NFs are, but they get touchy. They're touchy from time to time. And you sometimes have to handle them a little more sensitively than you think you should, okay? Because you might assume, well, they're NTs, they're made of iron, I could just bang away, at that, and that's not the case, and especially for NFs, because we think they're banging away at us. That's why we think we can do it back, but they're not necessarily banging away at us, but we sort of assume that they're made of iron, but no, they're not made of iron. They're not, none of the NTs are, and it's important to, realize that. Okay, so now we get to the NFs and NFs on the forum, and if you thought that was a bitch slap with the INTP, you haven't seen anything yet. Kapow! This is coming straight at NFs. So first of all, I feel I can talk about this because I'm an NF and I'm one of us, and obviously I care about NFs since it's called NFGeeks, and I'm constantly corralling NFs and band-aiding their wounds and all that, so I feel I can speak about them. So what have I noticed? One of the important things I've noticed, and again, I know this sounds so critical, and I don't mean it to be, but again, what have I noticed? That's what the question asked. What I've noticed is that, NFs will bail. I'll just say it straight up. NFs will bail. Not all of them. Not even necessarily most of them even. It could be a small percentage. But NFs will bail. And the reason why this is important is because all NFs say with great conviction that they will be loyal and dutiful forever. That idealism of devotion and loyalty and staying by some side and by someone and sticking to their values about people and all that. They all say it with the same conviction, but they all don't act on it, okay? For some of them, it's kind of like, yes, I will be devoted and loyal until this becomes emotionally upsetting for me, and then I'm out of here. That's that's kind of what happens. And so that's been interesting because, again, I'm an NF and I have this idealism that, no, they'll all be there, but that's not the case. That's not the case. And again, it doesn't even mean that I'm talking about a lot of people. I'm not. But the interesting part is they all say it the same way and they all mean it the same way. But yet they all don't do it the same way. That's the thing I've experienced with NFs. So that's one thing I've experienced with NFs. Now, another thing that's important about NFs that I've experienced on the Facebook forum has to do with their kvetching, which I know we all know about, but I want to give, again, what's my observation and experience? It's that, NTs think that NFs complain about them all the time, okay, and that we're always criticizing them for whatever, insensitivity, whatever. Now, that's true to a degree, okay, but NTs, the amount of bitching you think they do about you is a lot less than you think. It's far less. NFs love to bitch about each other. That is how much, and that is far, far more vast than you could possibly imagine. Okay, it's huge. And it's because it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Okay, the length of it goes on and on. Well, they didn't respect my feelings, and I tried to express my feelings, and I feel invalidated, and it goes on and on. And that's not really a big criticism because I'm in that 100% too. As anybody knows who's an NF, and in terms of things that happen to me and me talking to them, I'm 100% involved in that. You're not validating my feelings. I think you're not seeing me as Mike and just NF Geeks. So in this part of it, I am 100% involved, okay, 100%. But NFs bitch about each other and complain about each other far, far more than they complain about any other type. It's funny. It's like the collective. It's a collective self-absorption. You know what I mean? I know you all think that any individual NF is self-absorbed, but there's a collective consciousness of it that's going on regarding our feelings and talking to each other. And believe me, it's huge. Now, again, I also know that the other NFs and everybody know that we do this, but you don't really understand the vastness of it because I'm at the center hub of the complaining. Okay, so imagine a hub with spokes or a network coming out. So all the complaints from different people come into me. From an individual NF point of view, it's just one-on-one, and that's true if I'm talking or whatever, but it's one-on-ones that come all into me and then all out of me. So I can see I can see the vastness of NF complaining at 360 degrees, in any direction. It's huge. It's enormous. How it goes on and on and on. And sometimes it's comical, and I think about it like it's all going on, but then sometimes it's totally overwhelming. Totally overwhelming, and it overwhelms me, and then I become a part of it, and then it kind of starts breaking down. See, that's when it gets really bad, when I start being, nobody's validating me, and then there's no center hub controlling it, and so it's a wheel out of control, like a tire that just went off the car, it's kind of like that. So that's bad when I get involved in it, and I do sometimes because I break. And I complain. Most of my complaints are actually about the other NFs too. They aren't really about the NTs. Sometimes I get flustered, but really that's about it. It's very rare. But the other NFs, it's like, wow, aren't you an NF? How could you say that? That's I get into that. But I also want to point out something positive is that NF Geeks self-corrects, and that's something that's always very interesting to me. It always it has the ability to calm down and flatten itself out, and that's because of the interaction of all the temperaments and types working together, even if it's just organically and not even individually consciously. I definitely see that between the NTs and the NFs. The NTs and the NFs always sort of balance everything back to normal, when it's all sort of, out of control and whatever. And then naturally on the thing, it comes down. Sometimes I have to direct it and I have to guide it, whatever, and punish and smite, sometimes. But really, I can sit and watch it and it'll just sort of naturally self-correct and everything will be fine. Trolls are dealt with before I have to come in. For example, if somebody trolling is usually being pointed out before I have to look for it, that's a good thing, for example. So it does its own sort of healing and correction, and that's from all the temperaments and types working together, and I don't really have to have a hand in it directly, and that's really a very good thing. So, all right, so that's about it. Can't wait to hear the INTP hate mail. Oh boy, it's gonna be coming. It's okay, I understand. But follow NFGeeks on Twitter and Tumblr. There's an NFGeeks Twitter and Tumblr now. I'm trying to get that going better than what it is, but still, it exists. And come join us and have all the fun at the NFGeeks forum on Facebook. Just look for NFGeeks discussion group, and that's where we are. And come and join in the fun. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching, and don't forget, it's always happening. It's happening at NFGeeks, and boy, it's going to be happening after this one. It's going to be happening, but that's okay. It happens the way it happens, and the point is that it's always happening no matter what, and it's happening. So.